right, welcome back to another development dive of Galactic Cruise. I'm your host, TK King, and I have
And I'm your other host, Colton Thompson.
and we run Kins and Key Games, who is the publisher, future publisher, as of the making of this video of Galactic Cruise. And we are kind of walking through the development process of the game. And so this is our third video in the series. The first two videos just looked at version 1 of the game, kind of a really deep dive into the majority of the game, the worker placement spots, the launching process, the tech system. And so this video brings us to version 4. Versions 2 and 3 kind of looked the same, implemented a lot of what version 1 had, just a few tweaks here and there. I think probably some balancing things more than anything. And so I think what we're going to do for this video of the series is to look at this version of the game, maybe jump to the next version, maybe 5, 6, 7, just hit a few of the different changes that kind of happened over the course of this version of the game. And yeah, like before, there's no structure. We're just going to jump in, talk about things that we liked, that we didn't like, that changed from the previous version. And yeah, so Colton, maybe you want to take it away and tell us what piques your interest.
The first thing I notice here is that we set this table for more than just us. So we now have,
we have friends.
We have a 4-player setup. We have a first player marker over by yellow. And I'm already seeing off the player board that looks like we got some built-in resources.
So let's talk about that. I think this is the production phase, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you notice order of play has like twice as many things.
Yep. We have, instead of chopping away the fat, we've added some green beans and some mashed potatoes to the steak, just so you have a lot more to eat. You want to have a balanced meal, so why not add more, right? So yeah, so instead of starting with the cue card that we looked at a lot in the last video, we start a production phase. So you're going to gain your funding and resources. So I'm assuming funding is where your funding level is on the investor's track, right? And your resources. So maybe tell us about what you're going to get from production phase on your player board.
Yeah, so it looks like here I have 2 on this yellow board. There are 2 food revealed. There's an oxygen revealed. There's a fuel revealed. So at the start of each round, this person would get just like so. If more of these were removed, you can see there were more listed underneath. So that by the end, you were just swimming in food.
Which is why we still had to have the food drive. It's interesting though, right? Because fuel was the most important, right? As noted by in the first version of the game, the biggest points were down here. And also it was more expensive to buy, right? So, and then oxygen and then food. And here we've almost kind of like, instead of balanced it, we've made it worse, because not only is fuel more important and harder to get from the game standpoint, but from production phase standpoint, it is also the one that is most difficult and harder to get.
Yes. And I'm sure thematically we were thinking about like scarcity, rarity. I don't know exactly what we're talking about.
I really think this version of the game dove deeper into the things that we thought were cool and thematic, and not necessarily things that made the game better. So a lot of things you're going to see in this game that I've already noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed too, are things that sound good but aren't good. Is it maybe?
We wanted an expert, like someone who really does this, to play the game and say, "Hey, these guys did their research. This is a very accurate game."
We didn't know what we were doing. Just making it up, right?
No, but it all sounded good, right?
And as you can see, the launching here got just ridiculous. We'll come back to that. and we'll read through that because that's very important. We do have a nice thick player aid. um, Not double sided. It does
No
become
icons.
double sided at some point. I know. I think. But yeah, no icons. Just a lot of words, which is fine. It's fine. People like to read. Okay, well, so that was different. What else? What else do you see that's different?
Thank goodness. So we actually made some good decisions here. Everyone starts with interior rooms, so you're not
Oh,
like searching for.
are you sure? I really think interior rooms were in the
Yeah.
first version.
Were they? Maybe they
I think
were.
so. I mean, it's still a good decision,
Okay.
but I do think.
Okay, so maybe not. Um, so it does look like we
We did add.
we
Which
added
gives you an
that.
extra move right up on the track.
Yes, it looks like we also balanced like where these icons were to make it a little more
Right.
even. Because I think it was very fuel heavy.
Still not thematic, but
in the first.
fuel heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Did we double side our? See. Oh, yep. We got our double sided test tokens here. So now, I think now you just start with one of these on your cockpit. Yep. There's actually one down here on the start of the game, and so you flip it when you
Nice.
test it.
Yeah, I'm also just mousing over these decks. All the decks are bigger, so I'm sure that that's where a lot of changes from. Yeah.
Now, if I do recall, at some point our staff meeting starts to change. I'm going to see here. It does, right? You could pay $2 million for an intern. The second one on the previous version was, well, the first one was pay $3 million for an intern, and then pay $3 million to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's reduced to $2 million, and the second option is increase or decrease a guest. So I think the dice that were out here, you could increase or decrease their value by 1, making them
or their position on the waiting list.
Yes.
So that 3 could either be made into a 2, a 4, or move up a row or move down a row.
Save a die if you were afraid somebody was going to take it because it was more wild.
Yes.
So that was interesting.
Yes. It sounds complicated, but that was actually really fun.
Really fun. Yeah, just
sometimes. Yeah. If I knew you were gunning for, especially if this die were like, down here, and I was like, oh, I don't think so. It's coming back up.
That was definitely interesting.
Or if I really needed it, I may have dropped it. Yeah, there was some really cool stuff happening there.
The only other really big change I can see is we just kind of graphically made this easier to understand over here with when your token landed down here at the bottom, the arrow that it was pointing to told you how much it cost to repair, and I believe it rotated each round. It got cheaper.
Yeah, so it did get cheaper. Yeah,
because contrary to our game now, which has 4 rounds, there were no rounds in this game, so you just played. So you could let a shuttle sit here for several rounds or whatever. Again, this was probably a 3 to 4 hour game with 2 players.
Yeah, because we put out a certain amount of cue cards, right? Like that was the that was the game.
So we actually did have rounds, and if I'm not mistaken, it was 10. When the first time we
in round,
which is why it took forever to play.
I do notice though that we did add the parenthetical S to a couple of these, where you could at least do multiple things on a
if you could afford it kind of thing.
Turn. Yeah. If you could afford it, yeah. We also pulled a Shem Phillips down here. Gain 1 million per worker. I think that was all workers.
Yeah.
So like if I was here, I could count your workers as well.
Yep, that was interesting.
Which was cool for a couple of times until we found that a lot of players were, I think, discouraged from going there because they didn't want other people to benefit.
Yep. I definitely remember that.
Off of them.
We also added I know you mentioned this in the previous video, we added the cost to hire a new worker could be money or oxygen or fuel. And thematically, I think we tied it in. It's like you can spend the money to hire somebody who knows what they're doing and they're expensive. Or you can spend less money to hire somebody who's less experienced but use resources to train them. That was kind of the thematic reason, which makes sense. I think it was cool.
Yep.
Made that more interesting than it was. Yeah, I think that's about it, right, for this version. Oh.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Technologies. Technologies
I do-
had
And
points
I do think
printed
these
on them,
points are
so
different, too.
they are significantly less because there's now
That's right.
points on the text themselves. So that was cool. Just gonna flip these over real quick and just see if there
probably
was
the same. Maybe just more or duplicates. I think those are very similar as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't. Nothing else is really jumping out at me here. At the time, we still don't have a VP track. I'm noticing that, so we still had
right.
little counters for VP.
Oh, I did want to hit the launching and in-game scoring.
Oh,
and then
yes.
we can jump to a new version. But launching here with this paragraph. So let's see. 1 food per guest plus month requirement, 1 per inter-segment plus month requirement, 1 fuel per month. I think that was the same, cost-wise, right?
Yes, although we did move the month requirements to the player board as well,
which was helpful. Pilot a flight, place a worker, or pay $5 million. Now it's just a standard cost instead of somehow connected months. Place 1 shuttle token on the shuttle cockpit and the matching token onto the appropriate month. Yeah, you're right. You place one of these tokens onto the cockpit, and then 1 on the month, facing the right direction. Add the stars from your shuttle segments, match bonus, link the flight, and any flight card bonuses. Collect this total in combination. So I think this is actually the same. We just wrote it all out.
Yeah, I think we just wrote.
So stack shuttle cards and remove from hangar. So maybe that's new. Maybe that was they didn't have anywhere to go, but you just stacked them. I've put them somewhere.
Right.
End-game scoring is quite interesting. Like, this wasn't listed on in our previous player board. So here we've got in-game points from launching. Oh, so basically just where your current score is. Highest star regional tech track, which we just looked at. Invented tech, so I guess that's where you'd score those 5 points. Which I don't know why you would do them immediately if they're always just going to be 5. Hangars.
Yes, I think that's we
hangars
changed.
Built.
Probably pretty sure.
If you built a hangar over here, if you built a second or third hangar with your development, that's points and secret goal. So, all in-play shuttle segments. I guess this is when stars were still considered just points. So you would just, in this case, we get 2 points for shuttle segments in play. Right. Now, test flight, we've got something quite interesting here. We've got a big box of text. When taking the testing zone action, roll the test flight die and gain the reward. Increase funding level or 1 less oxygen roll for 1 launching. Then flip not tested token to tested. Test flights do not require supervisor for launch. So the top part's all the same. It's just written out, kind of like we did launching. That bottom part is interesting. It's like if you test your flight, you don't have to send a supervisor to launch it, which was cool.
Right. Oh yeah, because on the board, it still had the S on it. But a regular one could go there if it was tested.
Yep. Nice. All right. Well, we'll jump to a new version here. Keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
A lot of games here. People are seeing. All right. So that was 4. So we don't have a 5 for some reason. We'll jump to 6. Let's see what we got. See if we can point out any quick differences. I don't think there's much different in this one. Honestly, probably just some balancing things. Maybe everything looks the same. So I'm going to jump to the next one. Which would be 7. Let's see what we get at 7 here. 7. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that jump out. One, the test flight die. Kind of the first thing I'm seeing.
Yep.
It's no longer a D6. It's that larger die that we talked about. And I think we did that to slightly skew the odds of getting a.
Yeah, because before it was 4 sides had the increase your funding.
4 sides had the increase, and there was 1 oxygen, 1 fuel. This one,
I think it's still majority increased funding, but more of the oxygen and fuel.
I think that's right.
Mathematical odds.
Now we do have space photos up here.
What is a space photo?
Let's see. Is it a photo of space? Nope. Just a special ability.
And let's see. Oh, if you look at order of play over here, it's very similar structure as before. I think our staff meetings about the same. But if you look at flights, you move flights. So down this flights in progress track, you clean and repair, pay the cost, and then you get space photos. So I think you got one space photo for each flight you had in space. I think this was something to try and encourage longer flights, right?
I think so.
Or just like a reward for having something in space.
Yes. And I'm even thinking maybe in a later version, like if you were on a 9 or a 12, you got maybe extras. I may be making that up. Because I do think it was to offset the I guess the relative few amount of points that between like a 12 and a 9 and a 6.
For sure.
So getting these things.
All right. Well, let's jump to.
Is there anything else? I think that was kind of the.
We'll jump to. I think that was 7. I'm not.
Sounds about right.
I'm not about to save this. What am I doing? Yeah. So 7. So let's hit 8. See what we got different here. Yeah, not much different here. Our space photos changed to international renown. It still functions very. Oh wait, yeah. They're instead of effects, this is more of just like
immediate
5 food for food drive. So you get 5 food, but it's only for the food drive. So this card is only helpful to try and get you first player token, which is awful.
Yeah. Looks like you have more workers. Actually, I didn't look in the last couple of versions.
In the last version, but you do have 4 now. You start with 4. That's different but similar. You only start with food instead of starting with each resource. You only start with food, and you only get the others if you're uncovered.
Mm-hmm. And that might have been the last version too. Right. I didn't quite get it.
Launching is a little more streamlined as far as text. But look at this. This is different. Calculate, then collect VP and millions. So you add your shuttle segment stars, you add your perfect segment matches, you add the length of the flight, you add the flight card criteria points, and then you multiply that by the number of dice. This is when I believe. I honestly believe one of us launched a shuttle that scored over 100 points.
Yes. Yeah, because there were no limits on like the amount of segments and
no limit to size of how many segments you could have in a shuttle. I mean you could have, but that's interesting though, right? Because wouldn't interior rooms be better?
Yes.
And probably on the next version or a future version, we probably caught that and made interior rooms have less and suites have more.
I'm almost certain that's going to be the case.
Extremely broken with absurd amounts of points.
Oh, now hold on. Check out this fuel cost here.
What do we got? We got
total segments plus flight length divided by 2.
That's amazing. So if you had total segments, so that included your cockpit engine because it's very bold.
Yes,
all caps.
It's all bold.
So if you had like 3 segments, inner segments plus your cockpit engine, that's 5, and you did a 9-month. We still at those weird months. Yep, 9 month. That would be 14 divided by 2. That would cost you 7 fuel. Now, I think it makes a lot of sense. Right? Like, if you have a big shuttle. Because it's based on the size of your shuttle and the length of your duration. Like, the average of that, which I think,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes sense, you know.
Sure.
But it's awful. It's absolutely awful.
That's the recurring
That
thing.
that,
That's going to be the quote on
but
the
it's
back of the
awful.
box.
But
It
it's
makes sense,
awful.
but it's awful.
Yeah. Oh, let's look at our final scoring here. That's.
Oh, I was looking at it. It's a doozy.
Why don't you walk us through it? Tell us what you're scoring here.
All right, so you start with whatever you have there at the end. Then your highest star reach on the tech track. Any points on invented tech. We increase the amount of points off your hangars. So 1 hangar will get you 5, 2 will get you 12. All in-play shuttle segment stars. Buildings per row that you built. So if you built all the buildings in a row, it was 20 points. So there were just 60 points waiting for you out here. Anything off your secret goal. Money was 1 point for 5 million. Food drive ribbons. So if you won food drive, you got a blue ribbon. And those are worth 5 points.
Here's a blue ribbon.
And then any flight cards that you had left in hand, you lost 10 points per
this was
flight
like,
card
hey,
you were
let's
holding.
try something that Ticket to Ride does.
Yes. You can tell what games we were really hot on.
Viticulture. Then we went into Architects, and then now we're into Ticket to Ride territory.
Yep. And trying out this big polyhedral die. I'm sure we were getting into
dice.
Ooh, games with fun dice.
Go.
Let's see. I was wanting to look at something. What was I going to look at? I was going to look at the tech cards and just see if they were still set up. Or the point values. The point values were.
Oh, look, Tech Track now maxes at 30. We do.
Gracious.
We started at 20, I believe.
And it cost 20 to build there. Now it costs 10 to build there. 30. But I think there are more spaces here now.
I would love to have recorded us talking after, like, the playtest before this version, as to why we did these things. Now, I know in our notes, like, we've got a lot of notes across every single one of our playtests, so I'm sure we could go back and at least find little bits and pieces, but to just, like, hear the conversations.
If I were guessing, I would say that we had a playtester, or maybe one of us said, I love the tech track, but it's not viable. I think we were really big on like viable paths to victory. And so I'm sure we were saying, okay,
really incentivizing.
Beef up.
I think maybe it was the difference between here and here. Because if on the last version that was a small point gap. So it wasn't necessarily about the max points. It was about the differential between the two levels.
I think you're probably
so that
right.
we may have increased it this high to get a bigger differential. To go from 5 to 8 to 12 on this one.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm looking at our
on the tech cards, bottom right. There is now
that was.
So in the first version of the game, it was if you were at the tech level, the top of the tech level or higher, you could use other players' techs for free. I don't know how long it lasted. I don't know if we looked at the tech cards of all the versions. We skipped over it quickly. But here you've got to pay. So like I think you can't use it unless you're here. But if you're here and above, you can use it by paying the other player $1 million to use it.
That may be right. There were so many different versions of using it.
It's a little closer to where we're at now. Like just the ability to use other players' technologies by paying them, which I think is really fun. It's interesting to see that kind of made its way in early like this.
We're not looking at the cue card in a second. I'm just going to flip over and see how these were.
I think they stayed very similar. I don't think a lot of things changed. I think they're all very similar. I mean, if anything, like we tweaked the grant numbers, and the criteria for the grant. That's probably the only thing that like got tweaked for variations.
Yeah. I see there's now a funding thing. Oh, I think it's when you take your funding.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
whatever
Yeah,
it's.
so that didn't exist. Yep, it was. Yeah, yeah. Whenever you take, it was production phase. When you gain your funding, you gain whatever this says. So you're going to gain your funding level up
That's
here,
right.
plus minus, I think somewhere times 2, whatever it is, based on that. Yeah. So just a random amount of funding. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that was cool, I guess, for a season. But
yeah, I think that's probably the biggest changes. So here we hit versions 4 through 8.
Yep.
Yeah, so not a ton of changes, but a small few tweaks, more or less fixing things where when we play it, we're like, yeah, that doesn't work, or oh, we balanced this in a backwards way, or hey, players are playing it this way, and so we need to counteract that or something. So yeah, thanks for joining us, looking at versions 4 through 8, and again, feel free to like, subscribe, comment below about things that you saw that maybe you played this version. Let us know if you played it, or things that you liked in this version that we ended up getting rid of you might like to see in an expansion or a future game of ours or something. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in and watching.
all right. Hit some double digits next time, maybe. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.